Superman issue 3, Joshua Williamson writing with Jamal Campbell on the art. So we had the city infested with parasite clones, or everyone was turning into parasites.
And the parasite was going microscopic and spreading virally. Almost.
Infected Superman at the end of the issue as well, yeah. So I was not a big fan of this issue for a couple of reasons. I felt like I really liked the creepiness of this like setup of the city being infested with parasites and Superman creeping around and trying to deal with that. And I felt like they just fixed this status quo as quickly as humanly possible in the most dull and uninteresting way possible. Like, I got nothing out of the... Like, I didn't enjoy this resolution. It felt like I wasn't ready for a resolution. I'm like...
It felt like half of a story.
Yeah. I you know, obviously...
Anyone else feel like it like missed an issue?
Yeah. If anything, I felt like it was missing like the second half of an arc and just sort of skipped to the end.
So the last issue ended with Superman starting to feel like the parasite stuff taking over. This one, it starts with him being kind of half parasite. And then we don't even spend time with him, you know, not a lot of time with him going through the parasite stuff before he gets what essentially would be, if like this is a cartoon, the new toy, right? Like he gets that suit.
And then he's like, oh, he's kind of fine now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already like at Lex at the start of the issue, and I'm like, like, give us some of him like struggling to comprehend what he's going through or something. I don't know. It felt just like it was rushing through to an end point, and I didn't.
Especially for the fact like it didn't seem like Clark like processed the planet being, you know, the Daily Planet being parasite, you know, ized. He just kind of, you know, realized that it was going
the whole
microscopic.
ending of the last issue, right? And then it was just...
And then boom, we're moving on.
That's why I felt like I missed an issue, like in between, like oh, we're here now. We're doing this already. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Other than that, though, I did like a lot of the stuff with Lex and Superman having worked together. That kind of begrudging respect, where
I like the end point of that, but again, it feels like this arc wasn't important. Like they just needed this as the setup for the context of, oh, we can have this new dynamic between Lex and Clark.
Right,
that's all we're using this arc for.
After 3 issues, I get, but I feel like when you bring in someone as big as Parasite and you make it a viral type thing, you need more than 3 issues. Like they could have done anything else to make us put Lex.
The problem for me is that this like setup that they did in the last couple issues with Parasite was far more interesting to me than everything else they're doing. And it being brushed aside quickly just as an excuse to get to the point where Lex is ready to, or Superman's ready to work with Lex, just feels like you're brushing past everything I liked about it. So I was actively annoyed, and like none of the resolution felt like it was earned or climactic, which honestly feels like a very consistent Joshua Williamson problem. This was something that came up a lot in his Flash run, especially later on, where it felt like things would just kind of end in the most like convenient way they could. Like here, Lex just solves a problem for Superman really quickly with a suit, and it's like, you know, it's like nothing. There's no struggle. There's no build up to it. It's just it's over already. And
it's almost like Lex had this drawn up, and that's not what the story is. And these are the people that Lex made enemies of that are now going to make tough, things tough for Superman. There we go. But that's, but again, it felt like just the new toy. Like, oh, here we go. This is the new suit for Superman.
It almost feels like here's the new action figure we can make.
Yeah. This suit doesn't look that good either.
But it reminds me of one of the toys I had when I was younger from the animated series. It was like something like Krypton Superman, and it was kind of a version of Jor-El stuff with that big dome. Meant to look like a spacesuit. And I was like, okay, like whatever. It kind of was feeling like, to me, when Tynan was doing Batman and we kept getting new Bat tech, just because like he was finally able to write the mainline Batman. He's like,
At least with that, I can understand the desire. Like, hey, Batman has gadgets. Let's give him cool gadgets every issue. Right. There's at least a logic there you can follow. Whereas this isn't as forgiving. Superman a new suit because reasons.
Yeah, I think the other thing I don't like about this is that I think it loses all of the atmosphere the last issue had. The last issue, it set up this creepy city that Superman was in that was kind of like missing all of the people, and it's just all replaced with these monsters. And instead of him trying to have to navigate through that, we just cut to him already being at the other location with Lex, and I'm like, where was my creepy
There's a
journey?
city full of people out there, allegedly.
Right.
But
Yeah, I don't know. It just robs it of any of its like stakes or meaning to me. I wasn't feeling it at all. So like the first half of this issue just was such a big disappointment and just kind of shot away everything that it set up that I liked previously, that it was hard to really just kind of get into it or enjoy anything for what it was. You know, after that you got Lois and Clark kind of reconciling. You know what I mean? Like they're everything's back to normal.
She's no longer Parasite. He wanted to say zombified, but they weren't zombies, so you know, I don't have a good
possessed, kinda. I guess
possessed, kinda, yeah. Also, like I wanted a bit more resolution with Parasite. It was just kind of like, oh, I have the green light to consume all these little ones. You know, kind of like, what if Parasite didn't want to? What if he liked being viral? You know, like because it allowed him to eat more.
Yeah,
you know?
but they went on the loop of they will give you more energy, which like I'm a bit confused because it's like if they're already him,
right?
Like, what's the difference?
Right. He would see that as a parasite wants to spread, right? Like biologically speaking, you know, a perfect parasite doesn't kill its host. I learned in biology. You know, along those lines, if it's going to split that many times, he's just going to keep going with it.
It's something to do with the Sage Force.
Yeah, maybe, right? Yeah, this felt reminiscent of that a little bit. Where, yeah.
Just because.
Just
don't. I think it Lex that says, "Hey, don't overthink it."
Very much, yeah. That's just all I was kind of feeling from it. And then from that, you have Superman coming to Lex thinking he's there to gloat or whatever, but he's like, no, here's a Superman watch. I love how his watch for, calling him on it is actually engraved in the back with the logo as well. I'm like, what jeweler did he take this to get this like fancy?
I feel like that's Superman going like, yep, the symbol has to touch Lex. That's why it's engraved on the back.
He definitely just did it with his heat vision himself.
That too.
Very precise.
I do like the idea of Lex having a Superman watch though, because there's just something about that. Because we all know he's gonna abuse it at a certain point.
Yeah. And obviously the last couple of pages, once again, is the tease of like this group of villains that are coming against Lex. Which, again, just going back to this arc feeling condensed into 3 issues, so not living up to any of its potential. It makes this tease for these real villains have less bite, because I'm like, well, I felt shortchanged on this arc, so it's hard not to feel like I'm going to feel shortchanged by the time we actually get to this stuff.
I mean, yeah, but I also felt like, okay, if that was the stuff to deal with Parasite and that was their first test, what's Silver Banshee going to be like? Because we get the tease for that.
Yeah,
it feels weird. Like you started already fairly big in terms of Superman villains. Parasite's kind of relatively up there, especially in terms of just sheer power levels. Yeah,
outside of Lex, I'd put him in the top 3. Right? You have like Brainiac, Parasite, Metallo, probably for me after Lex. So
that's probably fair.
Right. So, but so like what's Silver Banshee? What are they gonna do with Silver Banshee to make her, more unstable and make it difficult for Superman to deal with? So I kind of like that, but with Williamson, there's kind of a lack of trust. Is that what he's gonna do? Is that his intent? Or is this going to be, Smallville style Freak of the Week? So
yeah, it's hard to say at this point. I mean, obviously the art's fantastic because it's Jamal
Campbell's great. There's no doubt about that. Nothing, I don't think, matches the that page from last issue. Looking out over the city with the heat vision, kind of illuminating everything. Nothing comes close to that moment, but it's still great throughout.
I do like when Clark grabs Lois and they go up into the sky. I'm always a sucker for that.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked issue 2, which is why this is so frustrating, because I feel like it just squandered everything I liked about issue 2.
Yeah. No, I get that. I thought you were going to be way more negative on it than when you were kind of hinting earlier, but we kind of lined up. But I still enjoyed myself. It was a quick read. That, if anything, that kind of drove me nuts a little bit more. Because I set aside time to read it.
Terrible issue. It's just it's pretty mediocre, and coming off of a great issue feels worse because of that.
Well, you don't want to take a step back. You want to keep building.
It's part of that, but it's also, I think, a very worrying trend that Williamson keeps feeling like this, where I'm feeling it with almost everything he does. Even that last event, Dark Crisis, like I like most of it, but the ending, the last issue, was definitely one of the weaker parts of it.
I feel he has that issue where he doesn't know how to end things.
Yeah.
What what story that he's written really feels like it has a good ending that he did? I mean, I feel like
Has Robin? His Robin series is maybe the only thing that I don't have really any complaints for.
Right.
I don't know, because like I liked what that ended in terms of the Robin book, but also it then immediately had to launch into a Robin crossover, right, with Deathstroke and Batman, and all of a sudden it like kind of just felt like, we didn't actually end. No, we didn't have an ending for this book. We're just setting up this event.
Right, we had Lazarus Planet that it led right into. So,
yeah, it's kind of funny because obviously in some ways he's aspiring to be the new Jeff Johns, and it kind of feels like he has the worst parts of what Johns did, which is he's there to do the events that tease into the next events, and then the books that tease into the next big crossover, which is fine. But the difference is that when Johns was doing that, all of the individual stories, by and large, were extremely good on their own.
Right.
And I think Williamson doesn't quite have that.
Williamson feels similar to how I feel about Marvel TV shows.
Okay.
I'm sure they're all fine. Like none of them I don't think are like really like bad. But by the end of it, it's like, don't worry about this show, but it's the next one. The next one. That's where you want to be excited for.
You're not
and then
wrong,
you get to that one, and then it's the same thing again.
Just to clarify here, you're specifically talking Disney Plus shows because
I am, yes.
Yeah, because otherwise I'd be like, have you got any vanilla, Connor? We'd have to talk about Iron Fist, okay?
Look, they have their own.
No, we don't have to. Don't ever remind me that show existed. Please, as an Iron Fist fan, that show hurt. Man never did kung fu once. He just had a glowy hand.
Yeah.
Anyways, Superman by Williamson. I'm curious to see where it goes, but I do line up with you guys.
The end result is a mediocre Disney Plus show.
Yeah, and you kind of don't want that with Superman right out the gate, right?
Yeah.
You want it to feel special.
Definitely not 3 issues in. That's that's what's really worrying.
It's sad
that's
that
the end of the
this way.
first thing, story. Like,
well, I think that's part of the problem is that this feels like it should be issue 6, not issue 3.
Right.
Yes.
This should have taken a whole arc, a whole regular comic arc, which we typically think of as 6 issues, to wrap up, and we could explore kind of this creepy vibe that it set up in the last issue. But instead, we just skip to the end. It briefly mentions that Clark told Lois about the Phantom lady that showed up.
Marilyn Moonlight.
That was the name. I couldn't remember her name.
Yeah.
I'm going to forget that. I'll probably remember Moonlight before I remember Marilyn. Yeah. I'll probably call her Madame Moonlight for a while before it sinks in what her name actually is.
But... I know she does feel like what how they were talking about it. Almost feels like a Spirit of Metropolis thing, which I think is interesting because I don't ever think of, Metropolis is the science city. Gotham is the mystic, creepy city. With the hidden cultures and the Court of Owls, and Metropolis has Intergang and Darkseid popping up.
Yeah, it had a bunch of stuff when it was set up in the Jimmy Olsen book in his like that past stuff.
I mean, that was more familial ties and stuff. It wasn't like this.
It was, but it set up like some wider world stuff in there.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if we go all the way back to Kirby's stuff as well, that starts with Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, that's true. But again, that's more sciencey type stuff. That's leans more sci-fi than something like the spirit of Metropolis. And what does that mean? Who is she in the grand scheme of things? But yeah, I'm sure Lois will figure it out because kind of what her deal is as a reporter. Plus, as editor-in-chief, she doesn't have much to do, I feel. So
that's true.
I don't feel she'll be as hands-on as Perry was.
All right, well, I guess we'll do our ratings for Superman issue 3. Matt, what are you giving it?
I really fantastic art, kind of so-so story. It's 7.5.
Connor?
I agree with the sentence that he said.
But not the number.
But the score is a 6.
Yeah. I think I have to agree with the 6 on this. I think the disappointment of it just kind of throwing away all the cool story that it set up and just hastily wrap it. But you know what? No, I'm going 5.5. I'm going lower than Connor.
I'm literally going 6 because the art. If the art's mediocre, it only gets a 5. But I'm giving like a full point just for the art being great.
No, the art
Numbers
obviously
are stupid.
Yeah, the art's dragging it up for me for sure. Don't get me wrong. Like, if this had mediocre art, it'd probably be under a 5 because the disappointment of what it did to the story would be like putting it in a deficit, basically.